Hello and welcome to another Pitch Football pre-season video. Today we're joined by Dan from Rovers Chats and BLACKBURN ROVERS podcast. Dan, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having us on. I'm looking forward to discussing my club.
Not a problem at all. Obviously, pre-season is getting into those later stages now. Season's fast approaching. Scary, isn't it, how quick it's coming along?
Yeah, it's strange. It don't feel 2 minutes since that last game of the season, but looking forward to getting going again now.
100%. Now, obviously, BLACKBURN ROVERS, I picked you to go up by the playoffs last season, and you look like you're well on to do that up until it started to fall off towards the end. Is there any real reason that happened, or is it just a case of you didn't have that squad depth?
It seems to be a recurring theme under Tony Mowbray, to be honest. I know we had Middlesbrough top of the league and they dropped off. And, I think in the 4 seasons he's managed us, we've been up there in 3 of them, at the Christmas break. And then something happens. I think we lost Ben Brereton Diaz for, a few weeks. I don't think that helps when your 20-goal striker disappears. But we just couldn't put the ball in the net and we were conceding silly goals. So, the drop-off came, a bigger drop-off than we thought. With us obviously being up at the top at Christmas. But, it just all fell apart and now we've got a new manager.
It's strange, isn't it? Because you say near top at Christmas. Usually those teams that are up there are pretty safe for the playoffs. But this year, a lot of teams just ended up falling off right at the last, didn't they?
Yeah, it was a strange one because obviously Fulham were Fulham and, Mitrovic was scoring goals for fun and they were already up about 3 months into the season, weren't they? Yeah. But, Bournemouth spent a lot of money in that January. You could tell they were panicking a bit. They tried buying our midfielder for 3 million.
Yeah.
Our key man in the midfield, and obviously he's gone there now, but tried buying him, Todd Cantwell, Dembele, Kiefer Moore. They signed basically anyone they could, and it got them up at the end. But I don't know why a few teams dropped off, but you saw your other teams come the other way, like Middlesbrough nearly got in, and Forest obviously flew up. So strange season, weren't it?
Very, very. I think one thing to notice with Fulham is, I think for 98% of their games, they had the same 11, aren't they? They had that consistency. Do you think it's just a case of maybe teams such as your Blackburns, your Middlesbroughs had a late push that they fell off early on? My team, Sheffield United, we didn't have that squad depth that maybe a Fulham had. Because Bournemouth, like you said, they had all those players, but injuries, constantly changing the team. It nearly cost them, didn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I think the squad depth's massive. I remember Fulham coming to Ewood and winning 7-0 and, they took Mitrovic off and that Rodrigo Muniz come on, who's probably too good to play at this level as well. They had players on the bench that were just way too good. And, that with a Fulham squad, it is squad depth. When you can take your best striker out and still score 4 or 5 in a game, I think it shows how good your squad is.
Speaking of new manager, you've got Jon Thomason. What's your initial thoughts?
I was surprised. I think, we see these merry-go-round of managers in English football and in the Championship, Pulis, all them lot who come in. But it was surprised to see us make a fresh change. He's only 45, which is really unheard of, really, as a manager. 45 is very young. And we just went for it, and I was really surprised. I think everyone was. He kind of, Daniel Farke were linked and it looked like he might come in. He didn't. Carlos Carvajal were the same. It looked like he would. Then all the other names started floating around. Duncan Ferguson was odds-on favourite at one point. And suddenly, in the last week before we get the manager, you just see Jon Dahl dropping. And next thing you know, Sky are announcing that he's going to be appointed. So it was strange when it was one that we didn't expect, but one that's been met with a lot of optimism heading into a new season.
You mentioned there's a lot of optimism, but out of all the candidates that were mentioned, was he one of the ones that you would have picked straight off the list?
I don't think it was. I think Carlos Carvajal and Daniel Farke were the two we all wanted at the start. Well, the majority did. Obviously, Farke has got his reputation for what he did with Norwich, but he was kind of hanging around for Bundesliga jobs, which he got in the end. And, Carlos Carvajal, I think everyone thought we had him, and then he got a job offer from, I think it was the UAE or Saudi, and obviously money talks in that aspect, so he's gone over there. But even, coming into the last weeks, we were kind of looking through, and Jon Dahl were never in that group of runners. Wayne Rooney were in it. There were rumours he turned down a job interview. All these managers were in it that had been around English football, and then, like I said, just Jon Dahl just shot through the odds. One night he was 10-1, next night he was 2-1 favourite. It just shot through. So he wouldn't have been the first off the list, but that's because I weren't having him in the list of managers I thought we'd go for.
Yeah. You mentioned Carlos Carvalho there, just before we move on to the next subject. I think you had a close call with that one, because I remember we ruined his career when he was Sheffield Wednesday manager. He would never the same after that £5 rant. But moving on to, obviously, you've got your new manager, you've got your best players in there, such as Brayton Diaz. He looks like he could go. He has been linked, but are you confident you could possibly keep him?
No, I don't think there's a chance of him being here. I just, like most championship clubs that haven't been in the Premier League, we need money. And I think if someone comes for a player, he's only got 12 months left. We've just activated the extension this summer. Someone comes 15 million for a player you've got to bear in mind that before this season, I don't even think he had double figures before the season just gone for the club. I think he got 7-1 season and 1 goal in each of the 2 before it. So he wasn't, Adam Armstrong, we sold him after scoring 18 and then 29. Broughton's just had 1 good year.
Yeah.
But the Chile links, and I think everyone's heard about all these stories about him. So I think he'll go. Where he goes, I don't have a clue. Everyone's been linked with him. Barcelona were linked in January and Real Madrid, and it could end up anywhere, but I can't see him being a player coming the end of the year. And I think the manager knows that. I think he knew that early on.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Like you said, he weren't doing much, he weren't pulling up any trees, and suddenly gets called up for Chile, and it's like a new man, isn't it?
The strangest story I think I've seen for a long time. Anyone who watched him, I remember several games where he didn't look like a footballer, and then he had his little spell in the COVID season where he looked really good. Then he got injured and just went back to his old self. But, he had last summer, with Chile, and everyone were like, you know what, maybe he can score goals. And I don't know if people saw, but there were a bet that were, I think it were 1,000-1 at one point for Brereton to score 20. A lot of people jumped on it kind of in hope more than anything, and then he hits it by Christmas. And it's one of the strangest stories I've seen, spotted by someone playing Football Manager.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, he's off to, he could have been at the World Cup this summer if they'd have got through.
Do you think that, considering he has only really had one amazing season for you, do you think it'd be more of a risk for the club buying than it would be for Blackburn? Because if you take a good chunk of money for him and then he goes on to flop after this, if it is a purple patch, you never know, it could be permanent now. But if it is just a purple patch, do you think you'll be winning out of that deal?
Yeah, definitely. We did it with Adam Armstrong last summer. We sold him to Southampton for about 18 million, and he scored 2 goals. It happens. I think Brereton's, I know every player is a confidence player, but he's a very much confidence player. If he scores in one game, he'll score in the next and keep building. Yeah. And you go to the Premier, you're not going to have as many chances up front. He's not going to go to a team that are going to dominate the game every week, which means he's probably going to have less of the ball. See less. He's got to take them chances, and you know what Prem football's like. A manager can't keep a player if he's not scoring. So you've got to hit the ground running almost, because if you go 5 or 6 without a goal, he could go back to his old self.
That's it. If he does go, what players are waiting in the wings to kind of take his place at Blackburn?
I think Sam Gallagher's going to be the man leading the line this year. He had a loan spell the year we went down, 2016-17, and we all kind of wanted him back. He come back 3 years ago, spent 5 million on him, which were a bit of a shock, considering we don't really spend that much money. But he's scored like 8 or 9 goals each season, and he's been played out wide. And now John Doyle looks like he's going to let him lead the line, which, as a big striker, you want to do. And it's his chance to prove it. It's a new manager. That's the main thing. New manager, new start. Dylan Markendale, we signed him from Tottenham, smashed it for the 23s, and he's another talent that he's almost a new signing. He didn't get 90 minutes last year because of injury. So, he could come and lead the line. But we're looking at Gallagher. I think Gallagher's going to be that one that, leads the line and hopefully can have a season like Brereton.
So not just looking up front now, but looking at the rest of the team, who would you say your key men are at the minute? That if you can keep this squad together with the players that you've got, we'll talk about transfers in a minute. But looking at the squad you've got currently going forward, who are your key men that's going to guide you to hopefully a successful season?
Lewis Travis in the midfield is massive for Rovers. Quite a tough tackling, gets in the players' faces. You don't want him. You don't want to play against him, but if he were in your team, you'd love him. He's one of them tackling players. He's got places to improve, but if he didn't, he'd obviously be in a better team than Rovers. So he's got the quality. He's probably going to captain the side with a centre back on. So that's another addition on his game. John Buckley, who plays next to him in the midfield, I think he went under the radar a bit last year. If this were a Rovers side that had gone up, I think John Buckley would be talked about a lot more.
Yeah.
Really tricky midfielder, only small in size, but can knock the ball around. Him and Travis, I think, will have a really good season together. Then probably at the back, you've got Scott Wharton, another young lad. He was one who we normally put a young player straight into the first team. Wharton went down the League Two loan path. I think he's won 4 promotions from League Two on loan spells. Coming at centre back, didn't look out of place, and he's probably going to lead the back line this year at the age of 25. So he's one to watch out. We've got quite a team of. They probably go under recognised. If they're in another team, they might have a bit more credit. But we've got players. It's just a matter of if they work well together now.
Bradley Dyke's still alive. He's another one. When he's fit, he could be a good player, but he never seems to be fit, does he?
No, he's had 2 ligament knee injuries. He did one in 2019 just before Christmas, and that obviously knocks you back a bit. He come back, looked really good in the COVID season. He were only half fit and he looked class, and then he goes and you think his knee goes again, and you think that could be a career ender, 2 knee ligament injuries. But he's back now. He looked good when he come back end of season. This is his first pre-season since 2019. So, he's 6 weeks behind him, and even though he's injured now, typically, but if he's 6 weeks behind him and just grinding and just putting the work in, I think he could be back at his best. It's probably scuppered his chances of a big chance at the Premier League. He might still get one, but he's at that age now where you've got to have a really good season.
Looking at the team you've got, new manager coming in, you did have a lot of success last season, injuries aside. A lot of people didn't see you up there as much as you were, but you did. I had your tips. You did really well. That drop off, whether it was down to squad depth or just running out of steam. Do you think that's a sign that you need to stick with the same system, or are you happy for the new manager to come in and kind of carve it up a little bit?
I think it needs carving up. Last year we had this obsession with a false 9, but we didn't have the player to play it. I think we tried forcing Dak into the side at times rather than playing what suited us, and we need new ideas. I think that's part of the reason Mowbray's gone. He's not gone because of his performances. If you look, I know we dropped off, but if you look at the finishes since he come in, we've had some really good finishes. The highest we finished last year since we come into the Championship in 2012. But new ideas are needed. Players like Gallagher, he's had all them players, he's not made it. And hopefully Thomason, he seems to have the new style. We've seen it in pre-season a bit. The new style's coming in. It's giving players a chance to be more expressive. He's quite a open manager, as in letting players decide what they want to do as well. That's what we need. There's a lot of talent here, and I'm not saying we can go up this year, but if he's back right in the market and he can get the players he wants, it's a project that could see us get back up finally.
Talking about players that he wants, transfers at the moment, it seems to be a bit quiet on the front for Blackburn at the moment. Talk us through what's going off at the club, ins, outs, rumours, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so over the summer, we had quite a overhaul. Joe Rothwell left for Bournemouth on a free. Daryl Lenny went to Middlesbrough on a free. Ryan Nairnbay was going to Middlesbrough on a free, but I think a few French clubs have come in for him. Bradley Johnson, when he's just signed in League One. Jacob Davenport, who I think a new manager might have fancied a bit, so that were a bit of an odd one. Who else has gone? Just Lonnie's coming back. Van Eck, one player of the year last year from Brighton. He's come back. Reda Kadri looks like he's off to Sheffield United. He were in the squad last year, had his ups and downs, but, a key part, especially around that Christmas period, he was really good. So, we're looking at 5 or 6 first team starters that have gone, and we brought no one in terms to go in the first team. So, we were linked with Anel, who just signed for Sheffield United at centre-back. We were really closely linked, and it sounded like we wanted him, but Sheffield United beat us. it's been pretty quiet. You know, Ben Davies has been linked to another, with Sheffield United.
Yeah.
But that's kind of not gone on. Our issue this summer's been the head of recruitment's gone. People have left the club. We had a tragic incident where one of the scouts passed away, which no doubt's had an effect at the club. It's been a real summer of turmoil and things changing. It might take us, I could easily see us starting the season with the squad we have now, and then that last week leading up to deadline day, we're bringing 5 or 6 in, and it'll probably shoot us in the foot a bit because they're going to need time to adjust. They're going to need, all this time to just get in the actual side, make the way. So you could see Rovers side that first 10 games will languish in around 19th, 20th, and then hopefully the signings kick in.
Yeah. I mean, one player you mentioned there, Ben Davies, obviously we had him last season. I don't think you'll be missing much if you don't get him, in all honesty. He's a player that has all the technical skills. He can be a good player if he wants to be. But since we brought him in, his head didn't seem in it, if that makes sense. He knows he's a Liverpool player who's waiting for a transfer. The problem is, with his wages, for the clubs that are going to want him, he's going to be waiting a while for that transfer. So he's happy to just pick up a loan move and wait. So I think there may be better options out there for Blackburn. Do you see that as a key area, that centre-half position? You mentioned that you're going to have a youngster leading that centre-half. Do you need somebody with a bit more championship experience to come in there and kind of sew it up?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we lost Darrell Lenny and the captain, and then we lost Van Eck. So we lost we played the back 5 last year, and we've lost two of the back 3 centre-backs. We've got Daniel Ayala, who's been at the club 2 seasons now, and he just can't get a run in the side because an injury comes up or whatever else. He's linked. We go into, I think we need at least 1. I think we'll try and sign 2.
Yeah.
But centre-back's probably the position that you look at Rovers this year and think that's the weakest part. We've got Scott Wharton, but, name every team that's done well in the Championship and they've got a solid back line. You know who's going to play for them. That Sheffield United team that went up under Wilder, you knew what team they were going to put out at the back, especially. That's what we're missing. And until we get that in, I don't think we can expect that consistency that, we crave.
Yeah, it's strange that you mentioned that because a lot of people seem to think that when Sheffield United got relegated from the Premier League, it's because the system got found out. It wasn't. It was a case of one centre-half, Jack O'Connell, was injured. We haven't seen him since. And he was so crucial to that system. And I think that when you play such a specialised kind of way of football, if you lose a key part of the puzzle, another Jack O'Connell is going to cost you £50 million. We picked him up on a bargain. And that's the problem that the likes of Sheffield United and Blackburn's going to have. Who's got £50 million to go out and replace a player that you picked up on a bargain in the first place?
Yeah, well, you look at Darrell Lenny and he's gone with Chris Wilder, and Chris Wilder's wanted him for years. He was linked at Sheffield United, and you can see him fit in that system. Yeah. And I think he fits perfectly into what Wilder will do. And that's where Rovers, like you mentioned, Jack O'Connell, a former Rover as well. And, Rovers just, we've always had it. We look like we're set under Mowbray. We look like we've got that back line that teams would be envious of in the league. And then one gets injured and he comes back and another one gets injured and you're just swapping. There were one season I think we used 16 or 17 different back fours. Across the season, just with injuries. Bradley Johnson played centre-back the other year. That was one of Mowbray's issues, that whenever we got a back line, someone got injured, and then, we had right backs at left back. We had one player, Elliot Bennett, who he could play everywhere, but we were forcing him in at left back at one point, and that's your obvious few. Last year were probably the best year we've ever had in terms of injuries, Dak had already got injured before the season starts, so I don't really include him in the lot that got injured. But, once players come back, we had Scott Wharton come back. So we looked like we had that full squad, and then we go and beat Bournemouth away, and it all looks rosy, and then suddenly players start not performing, just getting injured. And it's consistency, isn't it? We say it all the time at Championship. Everyone knows it. Norwich, when they went up, the squad, Fulham last year. We just can't find that consistency. So hopefully a few signings for John Dahl to actually get that starting 11 that we know is going to start most weeks.
So looking at Blackburn, looking at the squad you've got, if you were to optimistically bring in 1 or 2 players to show up that defence, where do you see Blackburn finishing this season? Is it going to be another strong one that falls off, or can you see yourself following through? Or is it going to be a season of transition for you?
I think the season of transition completely. New tactics. I think he'll probably bring a few players in from Sweden. You know, he had success with Malmo, so that's probably where he'll go. It usually happens. I think we'll just build them. I'd take a season of 15th, 16th. I think we need that year. You know, I think everyone kind of wants that outside goal at the playoffs. There's like 5 teams relegation in there, and the rest think they might have a chance. And we'll think we have a chance, and we might flirt with the playoffs, but anything that sees us comfortably away from danger's a decent season for me.
Looking at the rest of the division, what game are you looking forward to going to most? What away day?
Burnley. It's got to be Burnley being back. It's I think we're on 7 years now since we last played them. It's just nice to, you know, have it down. It's quite a northern-based league this year for once, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's, you know, you've usually got all them London clubs, Bournemouth last year in it, and Fulham, and you
Cost me a fortune.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? And I know Norwich are back in, which is always a pain, and no one enjoys going to it. But you know, we've got all these northern games. I just like having the Lancashire games back, the northern ones. You know, plenty of trips. Sunderland, I think, will be good to have back in the league. It's nice to have them up finally, and it's quite a, I don't know, probably my favourite championship lineup for a while. This, a lot of good teams and a lot of big clubs involved, and I think we'll see. I think there'll be a chance this year. I think it'll be. We say it every year about the unpredictability, but it could be a really good year, and having Burnley back could be. We need a revenge. It's been too long without a win now.
It'll be spicy, I'll tell you that much after so long.
Yeah, it's a.
No, go on, sorry.
No, it's just one of them things. The Blackburn-Burnley rivalry. We didn't have it for a long while. Then we had it for quite. You know, they got in the Prem originally, and we were both playing in the Prem, and then we come down, and they come down, and it's a bit of a fight for it. And you know, then they've had the success they've had, which, you know, what I know it's hard from a rival fan's view, but they've done well. And last year kind of felt like they were going to come back down. I think everyone's just, especially in Lancashire, it's nice. I think it's the first time we've all been in the league. Wigan, Blackpool, Preston, Blackburn, Burnley for 60, 70 years. It's just nice to have that.
You could have a little Lancashire mini league, couldn't you?
That's basically it, you know, because in the last few years, we've, like I mentioned, Bournemouth, going Cardiff, Swansea, Bristol, Reading. It's, you know, tricks for us. Having 4 games up here is actually nice to have.
Who do you see going up and who do you see going down?
Oh, I haven't thought about this team. I think Norwich will go back up. Just we know what Norwich are like with going up. I think Sheffield United look a good bet. You know, with having, I think Heckingbottom kind of surprised me a bit last year. I weren't expecting the impact they had, and
it's like Diet Wilder.
You seem to, yeah, it's really strange. I think I can't see, like, I don't think Watford will go back up. No. I was looking at the, you know, the relegated teams. I think Burnley will take a year to get in. I know they've made some good signings, but I think Norwich, I'll go Norwich, Sheffield United, and then who's in the league that's done well? It's really hard. It's really tough. I think Millwall could have a good year.
Yeah, I said them.
You know, with the signings. I think they'll make playoffs. I don't know whether they'll go. I'll go for Millwall as a bit of an outside. And going down, I think Reading look, they've kind of been the team going down for years, other than that season they had under Japstam. Reading, Birmingham, I think, are in real trouble with, especially if Pacini gets his hands on the club. And I could see Rotherham going down. I just think selling the best strike is always a tough ask, and they might go and make signings. It's hard, isn't it, when you're not at the end of the window and you don't know where it could come in, come out. We could see him make a signing next week, and we're all suddenly thinking, oh, they might have a chance. But I'll go for them 3. I'll go for Rotherham, Birmingham, Reading.
Dan, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Good luck for the season, apart from when you play us, obviously. I think you'll surprise a lot of people. I don't know if you'll finish in that playoffs, but I don't think it'll be as bad as 14th, 15th. I think you'll top 10 it.
I hope so, but I just, you know, if you see that transition period happening and you see the tactics coming, and that's the main thing for me. I think Rovers losing all these players over the summer, if we went and did something where we'd be up there, I'd be really impressed. And obviously that has a knock-on effect, doesn't it, as you're going into a new year. And we'll see. It's plenty can happen. Brereton Diaz might sign a new contract and it all looks rosy again, but we'll see. Thanks for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Not a problem. Take care.